Welcome to the game that never sits still. My name is MacDonald. I'm Anything Lacrosse, and this is podcast number 2. So we're well on our way here. Right away, obviously, the sound quality is a bit better. I got myself a mic and all that stuff, so that's improvement on one thing that I improved on already from last episode. So, first thing I want to talk about is anybody who watched last week or listened on Spotify, or watched it on YouTube or whatever. I just want to say thank you and thanks for all the feedback that I did get from anybody who did watch it. I can be another good voice in the lacrosse community to bring you guys news and all that stuff. So I appreciate it. If you watched last week, great. If you're a new follower here today or a new listener here today, I really appreciate you spending the time here. And let's get right into it. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Super Sixes tournament that happened this weekend in Oshawa. Some big moments, guys really stood out, and we'll be talking about all that stuff. And there's one surprise in there that I think that a lot of guys, he wasn't even really on anybody's radar before this tournament. So we'll talk about all that, obviously. So the next thing we'll be talking about is the unrestricted free agents that are available as soon as the CBA gets done, which should get done early this week. Like I've been saying, even last podcast, I said if it's not done by what will be this Friday, I think we're definitely gonna miss time. And apparently both sides have, just kind of agreed on things and we're just looking over things on the weekend. In Canada, it's a long weekend for most people, and with Thanksgiving, and I wouldn't be surprised by Tuesday morning, or at least Wednesday at the very latest, to see a deal actually get done, and then the floodgates absolutely open with this stuff. So UFAs will be talking about who's available, and because that's very exciting, right? And technically, I've heard a lot of GMs haven't even really talked to anybody outside their team. We're also going to dig into the attendance here a little bit and compare how the NHL was sitting 40 years in, comparing to where the NLL is now, because they're about 40 years in as well. How the NLL is stacking up compared to the NHL at the same time while they were out. So we'll see that, and that's going to be really interesting because there's some really kind of things that surprise you actually in that stuff. We'll also be talking some Buffalo. So if you're a Buffalo fan, man, we're going to be talking some Buffalo stuff because I'm really impressed with their just attendance numbers in general, but their whole franchise and how they got there is kind of really interesting. So we'll be doing a little bit of Buffalo to get into them as well. We'll be having a rumor come up, be talking about that, about a team relocating. So stay tuned for that as well. So let's start with the Super Sixes tournament, okay? Now, what a great tournament. A lot of great veterans were there. A lot of great young guys were there. It was a good mix, actually. And Oshawa put on a pretty good show from what they streamed. But that's the first thing I want to mention. None of the games were streamed Friday. None of the games were streamed Saturday. Only the Sunday games, which I'm thankful for what we got, because at the end of the day, didn't have to stream anything, right? It's a tournament. It's a smaller sport, all that stuff. But I can tell you right now, if you want to grow this game, and especially Sixes, which is going to be the Olympic style, you want to try to grow this and create hype around it and try to get eyes on this sport when it gets to the Olympics. It's Canada's national sport. Like, let's get some eyes on it. So big ball dropped, especially with the NHL, how they ended up scheduling, which was their own. That's a whole other conversation. But there was no games on Friday. So this would have been a perfect opportunity to be able to get a deal done with TSN or something, or even just stream it. Even just stream it like you did on Sunday and get people watching it. It would have been hyped. There was some good female competition. There's some good men's. There's a lot that needs to be changed about this sport already, though, I will say, in order to make it more exciting. But overall, to be honest, it's very, very fast. I always say a little bit too fast. But so that's where I wanted to start. But Canada took home the gold for women's and men's. So absolutely proud Canadian. Here we go. Now, they beat the States 16 to 12 in the gold medal game. You had E. McKay with a big 3-goal game. You had Owen Hiltz with a 3-goal game. And then, to no surprise, you had CJ Kierst with a 3-goal game as well, leading the USA team. But this is the funniest thing about that, okay, is like, as much as people expected that, to actually go to do it is another whole thing. And for him, when it's going to show that he's ready to step into Toronto right away and become that leader and become that guy for them, their franchise cornerstone forward. So this team is going to be scary, and by the end of by next year, especially once you have both English brothers there, it's going to be absolutely, that team's going to be one of the top teams. There's no doubt about it. So Toronto got really lucky with getting that pick in him, and he's going to be a game changer for them. So that's what he proved over this weekend. So shout out Men's Canada for winning gold. Shout out to the States for winning silver there. They have played a great game as well. And the real surpriser here was Haudenosaunee squeaked, and I'm talking squeaked out a win against Australia. And they had Warren Hill in net. They had some big names out there, and no slouch against that. But I was underestimating Australia. And I think, I think that's maybe my own mistake, but they played very well team wise, and they also actually had, surprisingly, the top point getter in the whole tournament, in Marcus Wertheim. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. He had a tournament scoring leader of 25 goals, 5 assists for a total of 30 points. The only guy to hit 30 points in the whole tournament. So obviously he was doing the bulk of the work for Australia, but still absolutely fantastic. It shows that Australia is really pro lacrosse there, and there's some guys. And the nice thing about this kid is he's not even signed to the NLL yet. He's going to be draft eligible this year coming. So he's playing in, let me see, hold on one second. He's playing at Brown University as captain there. He's a midfielder. So those guys sometimes go either way, but the amount that he put up in this tournament shows me that he could easily transition to a forward, no problem, in an NL scenario, probably. So we'll see what happens, or he at least has a chance to do it, right? Yeah. So Australia finishing fourth is actually really good. It shows they're kind of like ahead of all the other teams, because I would say you have Canada in their own. Canada's almost in their own tier just because how deep they are, but we'll put Canada, States, and Haudenosaunee all on the same tier. This is the thing. This tournament, as much as we love these tournaments, and it's great Canada won, there is a little asterisk, because like these guys, none of these teams are putting their best players out there, their best rosters. They're throwing out guys that want to play, and maybe they're trying to see different guys in different tournaments to see who they're going to decide to take to the Olympics when they get there, right? So I think it's just kind of more of like these tryouts they're doing almost, because they have such deep teams. So that's what I think the Olympics is going to show who actually the best in the world is, because Haudenosaunee, if you had the big boys show up there, I couldn't see them losing, obviously. But we'll see what happens, right? There needs to be game change rules to this game before the Olympics. I really hope they can add some contact. I really hope they can smaller the nets. I really would love to see them get goalie equipment as well, like in box, but I don't think that's going to happen. But that's kind of my dream, because you know what? Canada's goalie really did make a difference in that gold medal game, though. He really did. But I find the goalies do make a bigger difference in box. So the next 5 in total points, Ian McKay had 21 goals and 8 assists. Owen Hiltz had 16 goals and 13 assists. Sam English had 13 goals and 13 assists. John Donville had 9 goals and 16 assists. And Dyson Williams had 20 goals and 4 assists. So for USA notes, CJ Kearse was obviously the leader with 23 points. Fantastic, man, kid. He's like we've already talked about him here. But then you had the Kavanaugh brothers. Apologize if I didn't say that completely right. Pat and Liam, and they also had very good games in the semis and the finals as well. So hats off to that whole team, and they're a young core that's going to be developing and going to be giving Canada a run for the money in the Olympics as well, and Haudenosaunee and all those big teams. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of those 3 programs actually comes out on top come Olympics. The biggest thing with Canada at this tournament was just showed how deep they are, how many great players they have. Like, it's really hard to stop. Canada's goaltending was great in the second half as well. That was a big one. That Australian there, Marcus Wertheim, honestly, again, just an absolutely amazing tournament. Great for him. Glad that he could really put himself on the map and up his draft stock big time, because he'll probably be playing in the PLL, but even the NLL should come knocking to him if he's that talented. The women's lacrosse team also won gold. They won gold and bronze. Canada Red won gold, and Canada White won bronze. Canada Gold beating Canada Red, winning gold, beating Australia 14-12, and Canada White beating Haudenosaunee 14-8 for the bronze. So the women played great as well, and it was fantastic to see them get in there and really show women's lacrosse. Again, the women's side of things, we definitely need a big change there with the rules. They should just have the same rules as the men. Like, I don't like splitting up. I don't like using the different size sticks. Like, let's have a universal, especially if you're trying to grow the sport globally. You want to try to have all universal equipment to make it easier for everybody to be able to play this game. So right now, let's get into talking about some UFAs, and we'll touch on the CBA as well. We're going to talk about the free agents here that are coming up, but I want to just touch on the CBA. The CBA should be done by Tuesday, no later than Wednesday, I think, basically over the weekend, they're just both sides we've gone home to just basically, cross the I's or cross the T's, dot the I's, and just make sure everything's kosher. But as far as I understand, everything's done, and they've already announced that the season's going to be started on time, so this shouldn't be an issue at this point. So I think it's just going to be about getting it done, and hopefully we can see this early, because if it gets to Friday, then we're going to miss part of the season. If it goes any longer than Friday, there is nothing to talk about. We're going to miss games. So we're at the witching hour. We're in overtime, as I like to say, and we need to get this done. But I've talked a lot about that last week on my last week's podcast. So if you want to go check it out, it's going to be all the reiterated, like the same opinions and all that stuff, because nothing's really happened concrete. So the only thing that's really happened concrete right now is that they're saying the season is going to start on time. So that's really, really good news. They did put that out there right before they went, like they were saying, they put that out before they said they're going to go away for the weekend, because I think they knew they needed to give the fans something in order to not panic all weekend, especially on a long weekend for Canada anyway. So let's talk. So first off, we've got the Oshawa Firewolves, brand new franchise. They've got a lot of hype going on there. I think it's going to be amazing that they moved there for their season tickets and all that kind of stuff. And I think the fans are going to pile in that arena. So I mean, they have such swagger with that uniform and stuff. But anyway, they're free agents. They had Callum Crawford retire. He's decided to retire. And you have Ethan O'Connor. That's the only one they have to really worry about. So obviously, they kind of have spent the last few seasons rebuilding and retooling their roster, and so now they're at the point now where they've kind of, they got to run with their guys and let them develop. And they've been developing. And last year, I have a soft spot for the Firewolves. Like, they were honestly I would say they were at the top of the list to become my favorite. And they still could become, who knows, right? So I'm still a free agent technically, but Halifax and Toronto's really got my like, it's going to be whoever wins that game gets me as a fan, unless I start watching this season and I really get drawn to a group of guys or something, then I might end up choosing that as my fan. There is also a possibility I don't choose anybody. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So let's keep going with this. Let's keep going with the free agents here. So next, Buffalo. We've got Matt Vince. Matt Vince is a crucial piece to Buffalo's dynasty. And I don't think that, but I'm not saying Buffalo's not done. They could go 5 in a row if they keep this core together. And Matt Vince, he's getting up there. I think he's 37, but he's still limber. He's still the best. Like, he's arguably the best goalie in the league. Why wouldn't you want to go for that 4th or 5th championship, right? So I think that he's going to stay. I think you might see him sign a 2, maybe a 3-year deal. We'll see. And it's going to be interesting to see. So Kyle Buchanan, another absolute massive piece for Buffalo. Kyle Buchanan put up 34 goals and with 55 points last season. So absolutely huge for them. They've also got Chase Frazier, who put up 50 points for them. That is a free agent. So, you've got a lot of big players that are up for Buffalo and that are part of their core group of guys. Now, they're still going to have their top end talent, but they're starting to get up there in age. So I think that they all hang on for a little bit longer together and try to go get that 4th, that 5th championship, which is attainable. I truly believe. I've been saying this the whole time since I've been a fan. The road to the championship is through Buffalo. You have to beat Buffalo. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And they're such a great franchise, but some teams are starting to catch them. I will say that. Nick Weiss, Matt Spanger, Keel Matisse, Paul Dawson, Chris Clowder, Chase Frazier, I already said, sorry, Justin Martin, and Bryce Sweeting. So, obviously some really key depth guys there as well. But they've got, I would say those 3 are their main priorities on who they need to re-sign. And you never know, you might see them go get somebody else, because that's the thing. Buffalo has deep pockets, and a lot of players want to try to, sometimes it's like, if you can't beat them, you got to join them. And sometimes that's what you see these big names do. And there's some big names still out on the board that are available. So if another huge name went there, or it adds to Buffalo's depth and would just make them even harder to beat. For the Calgary Roughnecks, you have Curtis Dixon, who's obviously their key piece. That you need to get him re-signed no matter what. He's absolute. He's essential to get re-signed for Calgary. You have Jesse King, John Lintz, Nick Rose is another thing that, Nick, he's a veteran goalie. I think he's the same age as Matt Vince, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't see him. I don't see him leaving Calgary, only because I think that's the perfect fit for him. Calgary is a team. I would put them in the dark horse category. I wouldn't be surprised if they win and won it all, but I wouldn't say they're by any means favored to win it all. So I think Nick Rose, honestly, there it makes the most sense, unless maybe he wants to go back to Toronto and try to take that position, but we'll see. I don't think that's going to be the route for him. I think that he's going to stay in Calgary. Then Reese Callies, is also up for free agency as well. So we'll see who ends up re-signing here, and I'm sure later that week we're going to find out. So you got Colorado Mammoth with Robert Hope, Damian Edwards, Tim Edwards, John Gillis, and Dan Taylor. So, some core guys there, and we're going to see what they end up doing. Colorado is right there in the middle of the pack, and we'll see. They got a nice little rivalry going on, a couple different rivalries going on. So they were a couple wins away from really, squeaking into the playoffs last year. So we'll see what happens. Georgia Swarm has quite a bit of players to resign, with Mile Thompson, Jeremy Thompson, Jordan McIntosh, Joey Caputo, which is huge for them, John Raganan, Angus Goodleaf, Brandon Bomberry, another big piece they need to try to keep, Liam Burns, Seth Oakes. Those guys, again, quite a few players, but Georgia has a lot to choose from, and Georgia's got the benefit of also having the best player in the world on their team. It's really going to be what direction they want to go in, and they've got their own feeder league and everything, so they got a lot of guys that I think are maybe a lot of guys that other teams don't really notice and all that stuff, so we'll see what happens. Halifax Thunderbirds, all they have to worry about is signing Hill, which whether Hill will be the starter or the backup is still up in the air, but I don't see Hill going anywhere else. I think they love him in Halifax. He's a big personality as well, and he's a big locker room guy from what I understand. So I don't see him going anywhere. He's right where he needs to be, and I think he'll just finish out his career in thing. And from what I understand, there's not much interest in him around the league, but there's definitely interest for him to stay in Halifax. So I think we'll see him stay there. Vegas Desert Dogs, you have David Brock, Brandon Goodwin, Casey Jackson is a massive signing they need to do, Jake Saunders, and Tor Reinhold. So we'll see where they go, but Vegas is another one that not having their second overall pick would have been a big piece for them to add, and unfortunately they didn't get that. So, but they do have a really young, really couple pieces. So, whether those guys can really step in and take over this year, it's going to come up, and let's see, try to get one of these guys that are also on free agency to add to them, but I'm not sure where their head's at right now, so we'll have to see. So Philly has the biggest hill to climb here. They have 4 of their stars could be walking, and with the relocation rumor, it's going to be, what makes these guys want to stay here, right? Which is really, and they're really key guys. So we have Mitch Jones, Joe Resteris, Mitch DeSnew, Chris Corbell, Phil Caputo, another massive guy for them, Anthony Malcolm, Ryan Wagner, and Shane Simpson. So obviously they have a couple 100 points guys that could be walking. And if all those guys choose to walk all at the same time, Philly's really going to go to crumbles. But I couldn't blame them unless they want to go to where the relocation rumors is, but that's not even guaranteed. So just to fill you guys in at this point, the relocation rumor is to go to Montreal. So do they want to go live there? Like to go from Philly to Montreal? I don't know. Maybe you'll see them sign a 1-year deal just to stay the last year in Philly and then decide what they want to do after that. We'll have to wait and see, but I would say Philly has by far the hardest and the biggest hill to climb in this. And you could see, if they sign them all, great. They could be, they could be competitive come next season. But if they lose all those guys, there's no way. They're going to be in the bottom of the league. The attendance is going to be horrible, and there's going to be no reason to stay in Philly. So this season's a really big year for them. I know it's the arena deal as well as a big thing that they might not be able to control, but like, if you can't fill the stands, they're not. You got to give them a reason to try to keep them in Philly. And I'm on the board, or I'm on the ship or whatever, or the side that I want them to stay in Philly because it's such a historic franchise, even though it's technically not theirs anymore, and that's a whole other story. But it's still Philly. Lacrosse and Philly go hand in hand, so I don't want to see them leave. We got Rochester Nighthawks. You've got Dan Coates, Curtis Knight, Ian Lord, Brad Gillies, Brandon Slade, and Turner Evans. So again, Rochester's got a little bit of definitely some pieces in there that they need to take care of, but there's other teams that have worse. But we're going to see. And you might see Rochester add, because again, Rochester is another one of those teams that I think are a dark horse. So it's really going to, depends on who they sign, who they don't sign, who they let go. It's going to really determine on where they are. But last year they were the if you're talking pure offense, best team in the league, pure offense. So, some of those guys, there's going to be some teams knocking on those doors and saying, "Hey, come play for us because we need the depth offense," right? And they got to look at it as do I think I have a good shot to stay in Rochester and win a championship, and do I like the new ownership and all that stuff, or do I want to try to go to a team that probably has maybe a better shot and could really use me, right? So we'll see what happens there. San Diego Seals, you have Kyle Rubish, Cam Holding, and Ryan Benish. Ryan Benish is obviously the main one there, but they're all got they've got a couple key guys there that you really want to try to get in and get done and try to sign. But again, not too big of a list. But the Seals, again, I know he really, really wants a championship. I was just listening to an interview with him, and I know the Seals owner really wants a championship. He's dying, and you know what? The Seals, I do like their swagger. I'm always like, I don't know if I love or hate their jerseys, but the Seals, for they have a couple rivalries going on. Like they've got that one in. They're starting to really go hard at the Vancouver one, Colorado a bit. Vegas. They got that West Coast thing, and I'm hoping we'll see what happens. But they're an interesting team this year, and they're another one that I would say is, I think they've got the second highest odds to win the championship. So right now, so Saskatchewan is pretty much running with the same team next year. As of right now, everyone's signed through, but Adam J. So they got to try to re-sign him or let him go or whatever, maybe add a piece. But Saskatchewan, they need their attendance numbers to go up. But they have a team that's going to win, so they just need to market it a bit better there and get the city to care. Saskatchewan, I think it'd be a good place for lacrosse, but we'll have to see how that goes. I know I've heard some of their fans are pretty loud, so hopefully we can get that barn bumping, and because they do have a good team, and that's the team that I chose to run with through the playoffs last season. So interesting. And they almost did it. They almost beat Buffalo, and to say that, to be honest with you, is a very thing. I don't want to say they're almost, because Buffalo did come out in that second half of that third game last year. Don't get me wrong. But I really would like to see. I would really like to see, I would have loved to see a longer series out of that one, because those teams are so tight against each other and the goaltending for another line. Frank Chalino, man, he's a great goaltender. So for Toronto, we have Tom Schreiber, Corey Small, Brad Cree, Billy Hostauer, and Dan Craig. So again, some guys, they're adding a lot though. So we're going to see how many these guys they keep. And the other thing is, I thought Latrell Harris was a free agent, but apparently not. So he's still going to be there next year, which is good for Toronto. Toronto is ready to, I think they're going to make a huge jump. Last year, I was saying the whole time, they were way better than the record show. They were in the bottom 3 teams or something last year. And I think this year they're about to go back up. They got the new arena. The renovation done. They are ready to go. They're back in Hamilton, and they're going to be fantastic. I really like their team, and depending on they're a big reason why I'm a fan of lacrosse. It's down to them in Halifax to be my team this next coming season. I'm determining on who wins that game. I'll be going to the game, all that stuff like that, and depending on who wins, that will be my team. So I'm rooting for Toronto this year. I think that it's a good time to be a Toronto fan. They've got that CJ Kierst that just proved himself this weekend, and he's gonna be leading the charge of this new guys. And they got such young pieces. They're gonna be healthy next year, hopefully, and I mean, they're going to be scary coming into next season. So I'll be looking forward to it. It's always great when Toronto and Buffalo are both good at the same time for the league. So because that game is just amazing between those two, and I've been saying it the whole time. It's unfortunate, and so is everyone else, that they're only playing once this year. But anyway, with the Vancouver Warriors, so we've got Kevin Crowley, Ryan Dilks, which is a massive piece for them, Tyler Garrison, Keegan Ball, this is the number one priority for them. He is a game changer offensively. He's the guy that is leading the charge, leading the team. Him and Bianco, they could single-handedly carry Vancouver all the way to the finals, possibly. And then you have Riley Lauren and Brett Medix. Sorry, I probably butchered that name. I apologize. Mydske. So I apologize if I butchered that name. They've got a couple guys in there that they really need to focus on and get done. And Vancouver, by looking at this, they're going to be a strong team come next season. So we'll have to see how the league shakes up after this, right? How the teams are all shaking up. That's why we're going to be doing predictions once the free agency period is, started at least, and we see most of these big guys get signed somewhere, and the teams are pretty locked into what they're going to be doing. Training camp starts, all that stuff. We're doing a whole prediction stuff like that, but hopefully that was a pretty good rundown of the free agency, guys. Free agency for you guys, and let me know what you guys think, where you guys think guys are going to end up, and all that kind of stuff. I think that you're going to see a couple players probably leave Philly. Honestly, I think that's going to be one of the things that you're going to see out of this. I just have a funny feeling that the players aren't going to want to stay there with all the uncertainty, and especially if guys are trying to, live their lives for more than a season at a time. Like, you got to think you're going to pack up and probably move to wherever they decide to relocate, because they don't get an arena deal done, then even if they stay in that area and consider still are Philly, it's it might change the commute for some of these guys, and so we'll have to see what happens with that. But that's going to be a big. That's kind of my biggest thing, is a call out. And again, Vancouver losing Keegan Ball would be a huge piece. So whether Keegan Ball actually thinks that Vancouver has a serious shot is going to be another big thing, because again, is he going to want to go to a team that maybe he might not be the guy, but he could be the second or third guy and really help a team push over that edge, or even just go jump on a train and just to get a championship ring. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, so now we're going to talk about the attendance numbers in the NLL, because a lot of people say they're low, but they're not as bad as I think people think they are. The NHL back the same time. So the NLL has been around for about 40 years. The NHL, when it was around the same time, would bring it to about 1956, 1957. That's basically where the NLL is at right now, is at that exact same point. So let's compare the NHL and the NLL numbers at that point to show you, where the NHL was at and where Lacrosse is at right now. So in 1956, 1957, the NHL drew 2.19 million fans league total, and they averaged about 10,418 per game. So team by team, the top draws were obviously like Montreal with over 14,000 per game, Toronto with over 13,000, Boston with over 11, Detroit with over 10, New York Rangers had about 9.9. And then Chicago was averaging around 4,000. So Chicago was the outlier here. And that's the thing. I did a video up about this earlier, so I do want to correct it on here. I said the average league was between, I think I said it was between like 5 and 7. I was talking more about Chicago. I pulled it wrongly. So I want to correct it on here. I apologize for doing that. But it brings hype to the league and whatever. It drove interest and all that stuff. So I don't really regret it, but I do want to clarify, especially on here. I wanted to keep myself creditable, and I did put in the comments that this person was right when they called me out on it. And I love that the fans call me out on my things that I'm wrong, because I do a lot of research into this, but I do miss up things. So basically, I pulled the Chicago fact that it was they would range anywhere between that, on average 4,000, and the reality, the real average of the league was probably around 12,000 without Chicago. So I will stand behind what I said, in the sense that there are lacrosse teams that have those kind of numbers, bringing those kind of crowds into the building every game. So the crowd is there, and we might be still a little bit behind of where the NHL was, but it is growing. So if you compare the NLL, if you compare it straight up to the NHL back then, we're bringing our top team, the NLL's top team, compared to Montreal, which was the NHL's top team at the time. And the NLL is bringing in more fans than that, or the Buffalo Bandits are bringing in more fans than the Montreal Canadiens were at that time. So that's a big thing. Now, right now, though, we've still got our top team, Buffalo Bandits, for the NLL, putting up more numbers than the Montreal Canadiens were. Definitely, you have Calgary right there as well that have put up strong numbers. You have Halifax that are putting up pretty strong numbers for crowds as well, right? And Colorado, I'm pretty sure, is right up there as well. So there are some really good, there are some teams that are putting up those, double, like the 5-figure numbers in attendance every game. So that is it shows the league's growing, and it's year over year, it's up quite a bit. So especially even in Bandit Land, it's still the crowds are up now. Obviously, it's winning there, all that stuff. I'm good at pattern recognition. So what I see is like I get the same feeling that when we're right at the same point that the NHL was in that late 50s ish area before the league expanded in the late 60s, and we're going to see massive growth here. And I think the thought process where when I heard the commissioner talk about this, that he was Canada's kind of his real market that he's trying to drive in because he can see the numbers in Canada and for whatever Buffalo's kind of the outlier, but the numbers in Canada are pretty strong for most teams, right? I think Saskatchewan's having a little bit of somewhat of an issue filling the stands, but Calgary's great, Halifax is great, Toronto has good numbers for the most part. And now that they're going to be better, they're going to have a lot better numbers. I think being back in Hamilton is going to help them. You also have, Oshawa getting in there. And I think that's a team you're going to see 10,000 plus fans in there every night. I really do. So, and the tickets are cheap. So it's affordable for people to go. So there's no reason that these seats can't be filled and we can get this game growing. So I think with him coming into more Canada, I hear a team's going to go to Edmonton. That's another rumor that's going around. And then, so that would be bring another West Coast team, give Saskatchewan a rival, all that kind of stuff. Because there's that Alberta Saskatchewan rivalry thing going on. They could also, there's a lot of growth that's going to happen in the next little bit over this league. And a lot of people are frustrated because it's not going fast enough. But I think that exposure, this is where I'm going to talk about this now. Exposure is the major thing that's stopping this sport from growing. Get it on TV, okay? That's the number one thing. All you need to do, we have the product, it just needs to be exposed. You need to get it into hockey. You need to get it into the hockey fans' eyes because that's your biggest demographic is the hockey fan, in my opinion, because that's what I am, okay? So I'm a little biased, obviously, but I think hockey fans they're the ones that are going to watch this box lacrosse. I talked to my brother and I talked to my other buddy and I said, "What is the issue? What don't you like about lacrosse?" So my one buddy is going to come with me to a lacrosse game to watch one this season live, but he said he had a hard time seeing the ball. So you know what? He's the first one that said that to me. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my head. But that's an easy fix. Just put the ball. Make a ball of fluorescent color, something that people can see, a red ball or something, right? Instead, if that's a really big issue for fans, then that's an easy fix, right? So boom. He said that was really one of his main reasons, right? He doesn't really honestly he's going to be converted. I'm going to convert him. Anyway, I feel like I'm like my friends are getting annoyed because I keep trying to convert them to watch lacrosse. So anyway, I was talking to my brother as well, and he's a diehard hockey fan as well. He's never seen lacrosse. He thought what he said was like, "Oh, it's too much like soccer." I'm like, "You've only seen field lacrosse, bro." I'm like, "You got to watch box." So I think once I show him box again, he'll be hooked. So these two are going to be my little guinea pigs to see if I can get them to become lacrosse fans off one game. Then I know for sure, or I now have a good idea anyway that this is going to be. I have a good idea that the way its exposure is the main reason we're not getting fans in the doors or in the seats here, right? Because the tickets are cheap, the atmosphere is bomb, and just get these people in the seats. Let's have a good time, and the game's amazing. So all they need to do is see the game, and then they're going to be hooked. And it's cheaper than hockey, and you see some of the best players play. So another thing is though, superstars as well is another big reason on why we don't have. We got to sell these superstars, and they have the superstars. They just need to market them. So they have everything they need, I think, in order to become a major league. No problem. Like we just need to start getting people to care about it. That's all it is. So why are the Bandits this massive juggernaut that has a bottomless pit of money essentially, and they're super popular. They don't have an issue. Like they pack the arena, right? So here's some numbers on what their attendance was like last season. Okay, they broke record. They broke record for most attended NLL game ever. They got a regular season attendance record with 166,239 across 9 home games. No games were under 17,240. Multiple sellouts at 19,070. So they've got the most. They're obviously got a consistent fan base. They're selling out the arena. Like you could even argue in another couple of years that you could put a team close to them and maybe have that same impact. But it obviously didn't work in Albany. Rochester's struggling there a little bit. So we're going to see how that goes. But the Bandits are just they've done it. They've sold the the story that you need to sell. They've brought in all their old players as management and coaching, and the or different pieces in the organization. They get guys involved, and it's a whole culture thing there, and its community has embraced it, and that's what we need to do, is build this lacrosse community and have people embrace it. So, and I think that, like I said, as soon as you get enough eyes on it, people care, and you'll see people start to roll into this, no problem. Um, Obviously, that they're a championship team. They were going for their three-peat this year, which they completed, and but as long as they come back with the same roster next year, I can't see I think the hype's going to get bigger, because now they're going to do something that no other NLL team has ever done: win four in a row, right? And then go for that fifth. And I think that's kind of what the goal is now for them, honestly. And I could see it doing it. And a lot of people hate on it, but I love watching dynasties, to be honest with you. As much as it sucks for the rest of the league, I'm telling you right now that it is. I mean, it grows that dynasty and all that story and stuff like that. You can sell it, and then it's all the leagues kind of, they're having that big bad, like they can be the villain, and the rest of the leagues, these you could sell the rest of the league as being like the hero trying to fight the big bad bandits to try to take their spot and, win a championship. These bandits are just bullies. They use their money. Like, you can sell that all day, right? And that makes people care about it. So, it's pretty, yeah, it's pretty wild. The Bandits have championships in 92, 93, 96, 2008, 2023, 2024, 2025. So in total, they have 7 championships. They have 4 finals in the last 3 seasons alone. And obviously, they have Dane Smith and Josh Byrne leading the pack, with Matt Vince in net to lock it up. So their core is amazing. They're starting to age a little bit, but they're starting to bring guys in to try to, get them ready to take over the reins, and they're going to get to learn off these guys. And, we'll see what happens if they can keep developing, but they seem to be pretty consistently strong team, right? So it's the culture there, man. They've sold the culture to this community. They believe that the community believes in them, and they love watching them win. Buffalo still, even though they're not, it's in the States and all that stuff, it's not that far to Buffalo. So a lot of these guys, like they're from Six Nations. They're part of Haudenosaunee. So these fans will travel down there, right? They don't have an issue with that. So, they enjoy watching their players, and they'll get down there. So they've got all the Buffalo fans, but they've also got all these guys that they're drawing from as well. And that's a big reason as well why they're so popular. Obviously, they're also obviously the biggest team, so they get highlighted the most, right? Which, for TV, when the games are shown on TV, they show a lot of Buffalo games, and I can't blame them. Like on ESPN and TSN and all this stuff. So that's another big thing. But I can't blame them, because they're one of the most exciting teams to watch, and they are the best team in lacrosse. So you kind of want to highlight them to show the sport. You don't want to throw you want to show the best product you can, and Buffalo arguably is going to be the best product you can have out there on TV, right? Now, the Buffalo Bandit Toronto Rock, the fact that they're only playing one time this season is an absolute travesty. Like, these guys need to be playing. I would love to see them play 4 times a season, to be honest with you. That's the game that made me a fan. That's it. That is the best rivalry in lacrosse. There's nothing to talk about. So the fact they're only playing once in Toronto, not even in Buffalo at all this year, or in Hamilton, I guess technically, is sad, and it's sad for the league. And I understand why they're doing it, because they're trying to get everybody in to everyone's building at least once every 2 years and all that stuff. But it's disappointing. We've got to figure out a way to do this so you still have the rivalry games that are going to sell. This is all about selling storylines. This is all about selling rivalries. This is how you're going to get the games when they're exciting, when they don't like each other. You're going to get a fight in there. You're going to get some big hits. You're going to get lots of goals, and it's going to be a tight game. And that's what got me when I watched the Bandits versus Toronto, and that's what's going to get the next hockey fan as well. So the ownership is also, they share the ecosystem with the Sabres, so they're in that. They get a lot of perks that a lot of other teams don't. They're in a major sports building, so that's a big thing. And the Bandits are one of the main teams there. If not, they are the team there, because the other teams just aren't good in Buffalo. Other than, football, obviously, but like hockey team's not good there. So, it's nice to have a lacrosse team that's the best of the best, right? The all-time single game attendance was Toronto Rock, 19,432 in 2005 at the NLL final at Scotiabank ACC. Buffalo hit 19,070 people, sellouts, multiple times a season. So if they had more seats, they probably would have sold more tickets. So Buffalo is doing it right, and every team should be studying what they're doing and figuring out how to replicate it in their own market, because they are the shining star in this league. You can argue it all you want. I know they get a lot of hate. I like to put them as like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the they're like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NLL. They're just they have deep pockets and they can just do whatever they want. And yes, is it unfair? Yes, but this is professional sports, and what are you going to do, right? So I think everything that we've been seeing though here, like with the attendance numbers raising and the even the Super Sixes tournament going on this weekend, like everything's going positive. There's more growth in the sport, and I'm going to keep bringing you guys news and all that stuff and updates like this to let you know what's going on, to keep this sport growing. I'm going to help this sport grow as much as I can. That's pretty much the end of lacrosse, or that's pretty much of the end of the episode here. I just want to say thank you for being here. Go check out all my socials. I'm on X, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Spotify. If you're watching here on YouTube, I'm on Spotify. I'm on TikTok, obviously. So go check out the socials if you haven't followed them. And if you're still here, man, I really appreciate you listening this long, me ramble on. I will continue to try to do these, and I will continue to try to get better at these, because I know I'm not going to be the greatest at this point, but I'm going to give you my best every week. And that's all I can promise. Every episode, I'll give you my best. So other than that, next week, hopefully the CBA will be done by the time I do my next podcast. I'm going to try to start bringing some guys on. I'm just, we're going to see when that happens. I want to just be prepared for it. I don't want to waste anybody's time. So we'll definitely be looking into that in the next very shortly. I've got some guys that are lined up that are actually really, really cool guests to have on that I think you guys will enjoy. And it gives me a difference of opinion, because from a lot like players' point of view or former players' point of view, rather than me just yapping as a fan. So, other than that, so we'll be looking at that, and we'll be hopefully talking about who signed where, and then I'm gonna we'll be talking about what the rosters look like and stuff like that. So we'll see what news comes up in the week, and I'll keep you guys updated. And so for episode 3, I'm hoping to aim for the CBA being done. I'm also hoping to aim that. So if that happens, then we'll be talking about where the rosters are sitting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of news that we'll be talking about that. Talking about where the free agents did end up signing, what the teams are shaping up like, all that kind of stuff. And then anything else that comes up, any trades, any news that comes up, we'll be talking about, right? So thank you for being here with me. My name is Jacob MacDonald. I am Anything Lacrosse, and this is a game that never sits still. You guys have a good time. We'll see you in episode 3.